Hello! Welcome back to more of our Down Syndrome Awareness Month fun stuff here on this channel. I've been slacking making these videos because it's been a really busy few weeks. But we only have like a week left of the month, so I've got some really fun things that I want to film. And so the video that I'm going to be filming today, what I'm going to be talking about is the strangest and oddest questions that I've been asked about George's diagnosis. So I want to preface this by saying that we do not mind questions. We like questions. Questions are a really great way to start conversations and to spread awareness and obviously expand your education on something. And so this video is not being made to kind of say like, don't ask us questions. We love to talk about it. We love to talk about George at any opportunity. And we know that the people who are asking us these questions are doing it with good intentions because they're trying to understand something that they don't understand, and that's fine. But I also do think that it is worth noting when the questions are uncommon or when the questions maybe still contain a negative connotation in them, even if it's not an intentional negative connotation. So I want to say that I'm not making this video to shame anybody. I've never known anybody personally who's asked me any of these questions. And so these are questions that I get from strangers most of the time. So I just wanted to make a little disclaimer at the beginning that questions are a great thing. We love questions, but these questions we haven't loved. So the first question that I'm going to talk about was a question that I got before George even came home, before we even knew George existed. Actually, it was before George was even born. And so that means a lot to the question. And the first question that Kyle and I got was the very first question that we ever got about our adoption was, how downsy will the baby be? The reason that this is problematic is, number one, he wasn't even born. We didn't know he existed yet. And so what the person was asking me was, do you know how cognitively capable your child will be? And my answer was exactly, does anybody ever know that? Does anybody ever know that about a baby? Like how cognitively aware or successful they will be when they are children? And so Down syndrome is not a spectrum. It is not something that you can have some Down syndrome or not, like a lot of Down syndrome. It's either you have the chromosomes or you don't. So George does have Down syndrome. I didn't know at the time what his capabilities were because I didn't know he existed. This was last November, so almost a year ago. So to ask a mother or father or parent or anybody how cognitively aware or how downsy our baby is asking us something we don't know because he's a baby. He's going to tell us, right? Another question that we get a lot, and I actually asked on Instagram, and this was the most common response. I asked Instagram, I said, what is the weirdest question you've been asked about your child's diagnosis? This is the most common one. Are you sure your baby has Down syndrome? I get that all the time. All the time. All the time. It's so strange. Yes, we are sure. I don't know what else to say. I think people ask us this because they are trying to comfort us, like strangers who assume that we are sad that our baby has Down syndrome. And so they ask us that to be like, are you sure? He doesn't look like it. And he does. So that question irks me only because people, I think, say it to make me feel better because they think that I don't want my baby to have Down syndrome. George looks like he has Down syndrome. He looks like a baby first because he is a baby first. But yes, we are sure that our baby has Down syndrome. This is another one that I got asked a lot when he was brand new, and it was never by anybody that I knew. And this one, never made me mad. It was just always odd because it really went to show that I needed to be very vocal about shouting the worth of people with Down syndrome because people didn't know. And the question that led me to that was, will George grow out of his Down syndrome? I've only gotten that question maybe a handful of times, but I have gotten it. And it shows me that people don't know as much about Down syndrome as they should. And so that's my job. That's why I do this. And the answer to that is no. George has a finite number of chromosomes and he's got more. So age does not factor into their Down syndrome. I think the other thing that they are asking in that question is like, will George grow into more capabilities as he ages? And the answer to that is, well, of course, yes, he will. He will become more capable as he grows, as any human being does. But no, George will never outgrow his Down syndrome. Thank goodness. This is one that is always hard to be asked because it is a reminder that people see our journey as a sad one. And that question is, did you know that he had Down syndrome when you adopted him? I know plenty of families who were not specifically pursuing a baby with Down syndrome, and a baby with Down syndrome happened to come home with them. Those are some of my most favorite stories. Some people that I admire so much had that happen to them. But when people ask me that, and my answer is, yeah, we did. We were specifically pursuing a baby with Down syndrome. The reason people ask me that, I think, strangers, is because they can't fathom that idea, because it's unusual, it's uncommon. And so because it's unusual and uncommon, they think there's no way that she would have chosen this. There's no way that she knew that. And that's always kind of a bummer to hear, because given the choice, we would choose it again and again and again, and it's the best choice that we've ever made. And so it's always a bummer, and it's always really kind of hard to hear when people are like, you must not have known, right? Like, this came as a surprise to you, instead of being lucky enough to know what we know and to know that the choice of this is a beautiful choice. The last question is kind of a doozy, and it kind of ties in to, what number was it? I'm checking my notes. Oh, the first question about how downsy will he be. A question, and I get variations of this question a lot. What will George be like when he grows up? And at first, when I started getting asked that question, I was kind of like, he's gonna be George, I don't know. And then I realized that that question is sometimes asked in fear of what George might not grow up to be. And so what I've learned is that people expect me to know way more about my son than a typical mother to an 8.5-month-old baby knows. And so people have asked me questions like, how old will George be when he talks? Will George be able to go to school? And they ask these questions, and I know they're asking because they're trying to educate themselves, and so I don't mind that at all. But there are times when people ask me, like, do you think he's going to live with you forever? And my answer to that is always, I don't know. Nobody ever knows that. I know plenty of people who are considerably older than me who live at home with their parents, and there's no shame in that. If George wants to live with us forever, he can live with us forever. Based on the personality of this baby right now, he's going to turn 18 and like run out these doors. but you never know, right? Nobody ever knows that for sure. And so when people are coming to me and saying like, so what is George going to be able to do when he gets older? Which is a question that nobody knows about their baby ever, right? What they're really asking me is like, are there things that George won't be able to do when he's older? And the answer is the same. I don't know, but I think the difference is that I don't fear it. I don't fear George not being able to do something when he grows up. I don't fear the possibility of George living with us forever. And obviously Kyle doesn't either. We don't fear what George is going to grow into. We welcome what George is going to grow into. We're not worried about the things that are going to be hard for him. We are excited to celebrate the things that are good. And that's always a really big thing to remember, is that we entered this journey knowing that people were going to have questions, and we, again, welcome them, love them. But sometimes people's questions are based in their fears of their misconceptions of Down syndrome. And so the reason that I do this, why I make videos, why I have an Instagram page for him, is to show people that we don't fear it. There's nothing to be nervous about with Down syndrome. George growing up is not a concerning thing to us. So those are just 5 of some of the questions that I get. I get some really offensive questions that I won't share here, and I get some really great questions. I get more great questions than I get bad questions, and I love that people, I love when people ask about George, and they ask about his diagnosis, and they ask about his future. I love that. these are the questions that I've gotten asked that are hard or strange or well-intentioned but harmful. And so I just wanted to make this video to kind of show the kind of funny things that happen on this journey of choosing to parent a baby with Down syndrome, because it blows people's minds that we would choose this, but it's the best choice. And so yeah, that's kind of that. Those are just 5 of the many, many, many. And what I would like to encourage on this Down Syndrome Awareness Month is, if you are going to ask about people's, like the diagnosis of somebody's children, first of all, I think it's a great thing. And I can't speak for everybody, but always feel free to ask me questions. Always feel free. It is something that Kyle and I have fallen in love with doing and have a really fierce passion for now, is talking about George and all of his wonderful things. So that's all I have for today for October. Happy Down Syndrome Awareness Month. If you are watching this, thank you for joining us in the journey of shouting George's worth. And I will hopefully make videos soon. I'm so bad at this, which is so sad because I love it so much. But that's all I got. Happy fall. I hope it's a beautiful day where you are. Fall showed up here in Michigan today. We have candles burning, sweaters on, the leaves are all pretty, and fall in Michigan is the best. So I hope you have a beautiful fall day wherever you are, and we'll see you later.